2, 3. Hello, everyone. This is Steph Sushi, aka Galaxian Knight, here with
ANDREA, aka ANDREA DONICA, or vice versa.
Welcome to Ship or Not to Ship. That is the question. So Fandoms R Us. So we want to break it down a little bit. I invited my girl Andrea on board because I felt like me and her are kindred spirits with the fandoms that we fangirl to.
Hardcore. The amount of nights where we've just spent binging different television shows and ranting and screaming, especially for Lucifer.
Before we start this episode, just giving a shout out to Lucifer. You know, kind of check it out, guys. It's worth it. It's now on Netflix, so you can binge watch it and be as cray as we are about that. Okay.
Yes.
So, this is episode 2, Once Upon a Time. Yes, my Once Upon Timers out there, woot woot. I'm excited about this one. So, what we're going to do is my friend Andrea is going to give a little breakdown for you, my Dole Whip girl. She's going to break it down season 1 through 6, kind of giving an idea since she's my hardcore fan, except my hardcore fan didn't watch season 7, so I'll pick up.
Nah, I didn't. I couldn't do it, okay? Like, I felt like the show had stopped, and then even though, like, a huge amount of the cast left, they said, we'll do one more season. I'm just like, I'm not here for it. Though I did watch the final finale. I did watch that, guys, so I was confused for a lot of it, but I had a vague idea of what was going on. So, the show opens, and you're introduced to Snow White and Prince Charming, and you find out through a series of flashbacks and present-day situations that the entire fairy tale realm was cursed by the evil queen because Snow White had somehow destroyed her happiness. And the evil queen has essentially cursed this entire fairy tale realm into this place called Storybrooke, which you can't find on a map, is just like magically sealed, and if anybody on the outside happens to stumble in there, it's completely by accident. And you find out that Snow White and Prince Charming, they had a baby, and they were able to get the baby out before the entire curse swept up the entire fairy tale realm. But this poor baby had to grow up not knowing who she was. So she was an orphan, and all of these other things have happened to her. But in the pilot, her orphan son finds her, knocks on her apartment door on her birthday, and says, "Hey, I'm your son that you put up for adoption, and I need you in my life. I need your help." And this son, Henry, he knows that he is the product of all of these different fairy tales. But his mom obviously doesn't believe him. And her first reaction is, okay, I got to get this kid back to his adoptive mother because I'm not down to deal with this. I'm not mentally or emotionally prepared for it. So she gets in her little yellow bug with him, drives him to Storybrooke, and she ends up in this crazy town, and she starts befriending people in interesting ways. And one of the really weird things about this show is that she makes friends with her parents that are essentially her age because of the way the curse works, because time does not pass in Storybrooke. So everyone is locked into their age. And this is going all crazy or whatever, but basically, while the protagonist, Emma, was just going to go back to her life being a bounty hunter, because the evil queen, who, newsflash, is the adoptive mother of her son, which is even more weird, realizes that Henry is in a weird situation. She decides to stay in the town, and hijinks ensue. And Henry, his entire mission is to get his mother to believe, get his mother to see that she is the product of true love of Snow White and Prince Charming, and help save the town from the curse. It's absolutely wild. The first season is really one of the best conceived and shot and produced pieces of television that I've ever seen. Like, really, really fantastic. The acting is incredible, the writing is clever, and the dichotomy between the fairy tale flashbacks and then the contemporary reality is really fascinating, because these different fairy tale characters are cursed to basically be the antithesis of who they were in the fairy tale realm. So they can never be happy because they're being the opposite of who they're meant to be. And at the end of season 1, Emma finally realizes who she is, because unfortunately poor Henry decided to bite another poison apple, because of course Regina, the evil queen, wanted to get rid of Emma because Emma was a thorn in her side and she did not want to play mom competition with this woman. And finally she believes. And then we go on to season 2 after the entire curse has been broken and all of these fairy tale characters now remember who they are. So Snow White and Prince Charming, they're reunited. It's great. It's wonderful. Everything should be happy. But they do not go back to the fairy tale realm. They're still stuck in Storybrooke. And then more stuff happens. But once you hit season 2, it was kind of like the writers really thought that for the entire first season, it seemed like that was going to be the premise of the entire show. So when they suddenly break the curse, it was like, well, wait, where do we go from here? So then they started adding all of these different characters. And right at the beginning of season 2, Emma and Snow White, who now she knows is her mother, and is having a weird sort of crisis with that because her mother is her own age and they're best friends at the same time. They end up in the fairy tale realm. And we meet Captain Hook, who is incredibly hot.
11 seconds. So,
Yeah.
Because I just realized something. If we go through every single...
I was just like, there's so much to talk about with this show. Like,
there's way too much, my friends. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of break it down from here. So she basically told you what the premises of the show is supposed to be. It's these characters trying to reach their happily ever after, whether they're heroes or villains. And that's what it comes down to. And that's the biggest sell of the whole show, is they have to each reach their happily ever after. You have characters like Rumpelstiltskin, which is, I believe, the whole curve of the show. He kind of, helps Regina become who she is. He also births Henry's father. Not births it, but he helps with that process. You know what I mean? So,
he is the father.
Yes, but he didn't birth him.
No, it was a weird choice of words you selected.
So Neil is Henry's father, who is also Balthire, and he's pretty much... I almost think he's kind of like the representation of every man. He's not extremely handsome. He's not really a Prince Charming. He's kind of this very lost soul that has been...
Which is why he's a lost boy.
Yes. He ends up being a lost boy, and then he escapes to the real world where he does meet Emma, and they hook up when she's going through some crap, and... So that was all in the first... And the first season is so overpacked with so much information that it could be a different show. Like, that's... He thought for a fact, and which was referencing, like, where did they go from there? Like, really, they were pulling straws as they go from season 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And so when finally season 7 came, and none of the normal actors want to do it again, they got a whole new cast. And luckily, the Regina actress. Oh gosh, what's
Lana Priya.
Thank you, Lana Priya. She was willing to be on board to play the Regina again because she's what made season 7. That sounds horrible, but it's true. So we're gonna kind of go down the ship. So of course we have Snow White and Prince Charming, which we absolutely love. We love this couple in the first season and somewhat of the second season.
Well, and then they were given like a character assassination as the show was going on. And that's when I started to get really frustrated because they're written so well. And on a real life note, Ginnifer Goodwin, who played Snow White, and Josh Dallas, who played Prince Charming, they actually fell in love on set. And now they're married and they have children. And it's very sweet. But the way the writers started writing them and trying to add in like this extra drama that they had done all of this crap was just like not in character.
Yeah.
And it just also kind of out of left field. At first it was like, why are you throwing all of these extra characters in when you're not dealing with the actual characters that we already know and love? And then they with the ones we know and love, and they start adding this extra stuff that was just shouldn't have been there. It was just kind of random.
Well, it was so funny because, like, I kind of felt like the relationship was so played out. Like, you know how and this isn't any fandom, guys. Don't get me wrong on this. This isn't any fandom. If you get the characters together and it doesn't happen at the end, this is what kills the series completely, is having your favorite characters get together right then and there. You want that frustration. We as fans want that frustration until the final payoff. And after the final payoff, we're kind of like, okay, there's my ship. I'm kind of done. Luckily, what they had going for them was the undertones, the fan-made-up ship of Regina and Swan. That was the most famous ship that was not canon.
Yeah.
They were bromance, eventually. But there was no romance. And I thought, like, oh my god, would that be so cool if they made that? And
they just, both of the actresses, Jennifer Morrison and Lana Priya, have such incredible chemistry together on screen. Every single scene that they had in the show was dynamite. Truly. And you wanted to see them you wanted to see them butt heads, but at the same time it's like, yeah, be team mom for Henry. Be team mom.
Because together, when they made decisions together about Henry, it worked. When they tried to do their own thing, it never worked. So, okay, I do have a ship in this series that Sheriff Graham and Emma Swan.
And they killed him.
They killed him at the beginning, and you're just like, he played also the Huntsman, and that's played Jamie Dornan. He also, ladies, if you want to see his butt, go watch 50 Shades of Grey, 50 Shades Darker, and 50 Shades Free.
They casted him in this before 50 Shades of Grey, before he really took off. I mean, he was a model up until that point, but he hadn't done a lot of acting. And then he did 50 Shades, and that's actually kind of why they couldn't really bring him back, because his career took off. And this happened for actually a lot of the actors on the show that would guest star, because they would do like a short stint as a character. It would get them really good recognition, and then suddenly they start getting calls for all of these bigger projects.
Yes.
The Mad Hatter, for example, he ended up becoming the Winter Soldier, so they kind of had to let him go do his Marvel stuff, and let that be that.
And the problem is when we're jumping on Alice, remember they went and did some alternate shows. So you have Alice in Wonderland, you have Aladdin they did. Well, then when season 7 came, which was, and it wasn't their first LGBT. I think that was Red was their, Mulan and Red was their first LGBT.
Yeah. And then even before that Mulan and Aurora was teased at.
It was teased at.
But never acted upon.
But Mulan didn't get with Red, which we thought that was going to happen. And then we thought Red was going to get with Merida for a while. But she ends up getting up with Dorothy. And I'm just like... And part of me's like, that kind of makes sense to me. Because Little Red Riding Hood has not necessarily been Disneyfied, so to speak. Extremely, it hasn't been told as a Disney story. And neither is Wizard of Oz. They're kind of their own kind of separate stories. So it kind of made sense to me for them to get together. But it felt forced.
Oh, honestly, I couldn't have been more bored with Dorothy's portrayal in those episodes. And it was a very forced, contrived thing. And I was like, okay, I'm glad to see some diversity and representation, but this ain't it. I'm not rooting for them, I'm rooting for Red just to see her be happy, but that's kind of it.
They tried to bring back to create a character for LGBT community, and that was in season 7. They created Alice, who was another realm of Alice in Wonderland. Now here's the thing, even though we had Cinderella in the original season 1, they brought a new Cinderella because they said each, different countries, different, groups have their different stories, so the stories are all of different, universes and stuff like that. They made this whole... It just became too much of a cluster. It became way too much. So Alice is the daughter of the alternate reality Hook. So the fake happily ever after for Emma, that was when she was in that dreamscape, and she was in the world, the fantasy world, and she was a princess and stuff like that. They had a fake Hook. They had the fake Hook. So the fake Hook ends up in a different reality. The fat Hook, that's what we call him, the fat Hook.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So Emma and Hook in the season 7 meet up with Henry, and they tell him that Emma's pregnant with another baby. So then Hook meets up with Hook before he goes back with Emma, and gets him to, turn skinny Hook again so that they can continue the actor's career in Once Upon a Time. Oh my gosh, it's so bad. And so he has a daughter in this alternate reality Hook named Alice, who ends up in Wonderland, but she's cursed through this whole messed up thing by Lady Gothel. She's cursed to not be able to go near her father, otherwise his heart will stop every time she goes near him. So, who she ends up with is Robin. The female Robin, which is the daughter of the Wicked Witch.
Yeah.
And Robin's daughter. So, she ends up with her. So... Does it get better? No. So let's go, we're going to go backtrack a little bit.
Yeah, please. My soul is just dying. By the way, the second Cinderella, that was kind of the deal breaker for me. Once I read that they were doing a new Cinderella, I was just like, oh no, you can't even find a new fairy tale to do something with. Please, God, help me. No, I'm not watching this over again.
The actor that played Henry was amazing. Adult Henry was good looking, he was sweet, but at the same time, he was get down to business Henry. And he became a writer. So he did become a writer. But he didn't have much of an ensemble. The girl that played his daughter, I felt she was very one note. Which is like Henry at the beginning.
Well, I mean, when you cast a child actor, you cast a child actor, I feel really bad for child actors, when they're on big shows like this, because the internet will tear them a new one, and it's guys, they haven't gone to school for this stuff. He's 8 years old, he's doing the best he can. At least he remembers his lines. Like, my goodness, what do you expect from this poor kid?
But that's also when they introduced Tiana, and I felt she was really good. But again, the rest of the cast just fell short. I just felt like, they were just trying to keep something going. They were kicking. I'm trying to be PC here. And it's really hard. Because I know you love animals. So I'm trying to be nice.
Yeah, please don't say that. Well, I guess we all know what that means. I want to backtrack to Emma and all of her suitors, as we would say, because there was just like a long line of people. So like we had Graham, Jamie Dornan, who was also the huntsman. He gets killed off in the middle of season 1, so he's gone like pretty much instantly. Then you have August, who is actually Pinocchio, and that was really interesting. Those two characters had a really fascinating dynamic, and August really goes out of his way to try and get Emma to believe. In fact, he pushes even harder than Henry does in many ways.
There was no romance between them. That didn't make sense to me. I thought that would have been played very well. They could have been each other's partners, but it felt like if they had done it then, it would have been too forced.
Maybe. And I feel like he kind of disappeared at the after season 1, we didn't see him for a while. So I think probably it was also like in the actor probably had other projects he was doing or whatnot. But then Hook comes into the equation. Colin O'Donoghue. And my God, what a charming man he is. How handsome. And it's fascinating because the two of them start as really like, I have to kind of trust you as I climb up this giant beanstalk and could very easily fall and die.
The dialogue and the banter between them
is so good. The chemistry was off the charts, and honestly, I think that was the main reason why they actually went with him. I don't necessarily believe that the writers were planning for it to go that way, but because the actors had such good chemistry, they decided to keep it going.
Because she didn't have good chemistry with Neil. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, it was flat. It was flat, and it was just... they tried. But look, this is the thing. You can have amazing actors, and you can put them together in all sorts of situations, but if the magic isn't there, it's not there. You can't force it. Even the best actors that try to fake it, you can't fake it on screen. You really have to convince yourself as a performer, and if you don't, and the camera catches everything.
We know if you're lying.
We know if you're lying.
But but even as time went on, it became kind of the Emma, the Snow White and Prince Charming syndrome, where you outplay your ship, and it sucks because
they were too happy, and that's the unfortunate thing with these shows. You want to see the drama. You want to see them struggle to fight to be with each other, and once they get into the comfortable place and the fighting is gone, the excitement dies, which is really unfortunate. I actually really respect the writers for showing us seeing Snow having another baby after Emma and actually having to deal with that on this weird sort of emotional level also with Emma, and Emma just being like, I just got my mother back, she's my age, and now she's gonna have another baby. It's like I don't even exist. And that was really interesting subtext to me. And also Snow having to deal with, I think she was mayor at the time. She was juggling a newborn and trying to be mayor at the same time. And I respected that. I was sad that I didn't see more cutesy, Charming being home and, maybe trying to be supportive dad or something like that. They didn't really play that at all. It's kind of like these male writers don't know anything about that stuff. You know what I mean? It's like they have no real life experience in those things.
But they did. And I think they actually, created another character that I like throughout later on the season, which was not creating. I mean, obviously they had, the text to revert back to, but it was Zelena. I love my Wicked Witch. I'm so... Oh, and here's the funny thing. Even in going into the season 7 and stuff like that, she still maintained her wickedness. Even though she was sisters to Regina, even though they ended up being friends, sisters, she still had enough wickedness in her.
She still had enough crazy in her. That woman, you never knew what she was up to. Like... Oh, you know what? So this was a later season thing that I actually kind of appreciated was her dynamic with Hades. I shipped them, and I was so sad that Hades had to die because he was an evil, evil dude, but they worked together really well.
I don't think it works that way. You can't kill the Lord of the Underworld.
That was there were so many like MacGuffins and story problems for things all the time. Guys, I know we're kind of like ragging on the show, so it probably sounds awful listening to us talk about it right now. But there are actually some really good things about it. If you're a Disney fan or like a classic story fan, like you're going to enjoy it. The enjoyment will start to wear off.
Yes.
Going through a few seasons. For us, it was like we've been here this long, we have to keep seeing this through.
Yeah.
And then finally I did stop.
Yeah.
Apparently.
This is no Game of Thrones, guys. You're not going to sit there and say, I have to see the next season. I have to see the next season, except the last season. Can suck it. Which, I've come to terms with it. I've gotten over that. We're not going to talk about that. That's another whole episode.
Regina and Robin Hood. Now, those two were an interesting couple. I want to hear your thoughts on it because you were such a Swan Queen fan.
Robin and Regina. I hated what they did to Robin and Regina. I felt like, you know what? I felt like this whole show was Bash Regina Day. It's Bash Regina forever. It was just a total, like, I'm going to see how messed up I can make Regina. Let's see how much we can mess with Regina. Ooh, give Regina a little happiness. No, we're going to take it away. No. So, Robin, when he came onto the scene, I loved him. I absolutely loved him. I felt like, I like the backstory that when she was the evil queen, that she could have gotten her happiness. That she had run away, she could have gotten her happiness. So there was a lot of, good points about the relationship. When it came down to it, he made the right choices. And that's not always the easiest. And so it made it feel like unfair to Regina all the time, especially when her sister...
Well, that's just what the show was. The show was just stomping on her every time. We need to talk about those two. Which was such a huge... I remember watching that episode in season 1 where you find out that Rumpelstiltskin, who was not only called the crocodile, but also the beast. And you meet Belle, and their interactions with each other are just so endearing and so heartwarming. And there's a huge age difference there, you guys. The actor that plays Rumpelstiltskin, shoot, I feel so bad for forgetting his name right now. I'm pulling it up. One of the best actors ever. Robert Carlyle, he's so good. Really, look up his name if you haven't heard of him before. He does incredible work. Him against Emily de Ravin was just so sweet and so tender, and for a character that up until that point just seemed to be like this element of chaos that wasn't emotionally connected to anyone or anything, suddenly this bombshell comes down, and you meet Belle, and your brain just goes, never, ever. It was so fascinating. And you really never knew how the relationship was going to go, because while they both really wanted to be with each other, Rumpelstiltskin has a lot of problems. He has a drug level addiction with magic. And because of that, it was taking a real toll on the relationship. And it had so many references to like real life problems with relationships, and in many ways I felt like that was kind of the most realistic relationship that you could see. Even with the fairy tale elements, you could draw connections to different things in one's personal life and experiences, or we're seeing what people deal with when they really are trying to be together, two people that really want to be together but keep having these different personal hang-ups, and it's all internally. It's all stuff that you as a person have to overcome. And still, with all of this stuff that was going around, even with so many bad decisions, and even with Belle sometimes kind of sounding like just repeating herself, and it was like the same conversation over and over again, you still rooted for them. It was still really, really good to watch.
Yeah, and I felt even when we got to season 6, when things came to their happy ending, and when they finally were able to have some normalcy, especially with their son, that was a beautiful arc. So when they ruined it with season 7, and I'm going to go in a little bit about that. So what happens in season 7, it's years later. Henry is off adventuring in, the land of make-believe, pretty much. And so we get images of Rumpel and Belle living out their lives until Belle ages old and dies of old age. And Rumpel, who can't die, I'm going to put it there, he can't die, is trying to find a way afterwards. He wants to follow her in death. And this is the sad, tragic part. So through all season 7, he is the only one that remembers that he has magic. The only one. And, of course, like always, because another curse happens, and
this is kind of the normal thing too, you guys. Whenever there's a new problem, it's a new curse, generally.
So, Rumpel's trying to separate himself from his dagger. If he can separate himself from his dagger, he will eventually die out and follow Belle into the afterlife. That's all he wants to do. Like, the whole time. And you feel bad for him. But there is no, he helps out here and there. He's not necessarily a bad guy, but he's also kind of like a crooked cop in this one. So it's pretty funny. But it misses the Belle character, and that's the problem. Like, and I know the actress, she had said her piece. I'm not doing another one. She's like, at the end, I'll show up at the beginning, what you want, but I'm not doing another one. That was in the interview. She's like, kind of done. Most of them were done. So, Rumpel being the undertone of Once Upon a Time. Here's the thing. Without him, a lot of this crap doesn't happen.
Yeah. Like, he is the running thread through all of the fairy tales. All of them.
And so, it just felt like he was a staged character through the whole thing. Like, okay, he's to fix this problem. Now he's going to create this problem. Now he's going to fix this problem. And that's what season 7 felt like for him. Because he had no direction, no drive except to reunite with Belle. But there was no Belle there to be that kind of, contact.
Moral compass.
Exactly. And so he kind of was all over the place. Now, granted, Team Rumpel and Team Hook was awesome in season 7. I did have to admit they were partners, so to speak. Some of the stuff they were doing was hilarious. I'm not gonna lie. And this is not to confuse it with Hook, Emma's Hook. This is not Storybrooke Hook. This is Fat Hook turned skinny. If that makes sense.
Man, the stuff they would do on the show. God.
And it just, It hurts so bad watching some of this. Oh my god, like...
At what point do you take it personally, like as an insult to your intelligence, by some of the stuff that writers do on television shows?
Now the wicked stepmother, I guess the Lady Tremaine character. That was the weird thing. Okay, so she was originally Rapunzel. Oh yeah, and so this is how this is the confusing part. Okay, so it goes from this. She gets locked into a tower by Lady Gothel. And she gets stolen from her husband and her 2 daughters. And her husband, instead of it being Cinderella's father, remarries Cinderella's mother, thinking that his wife is dead, because she was locked in a tower for years until the girls have grown up to... Yeah, okay? And so Cinderella's actually his stepdaughter. So when she rescues herself, by the way, no one goes to help her or look for her. She rescues herself, or Lady Madame Gothel, or Mother Gothel, you want to call her. They switch back and forth. Basically, lets her go, pretty much. She realizes that, oh my gosh, my husband's been taken away from me by this woman, and becomes their maid in the house, so she could be close to her daughters. And Mother Gothel tries to enforce dark magic on her to kill Cinderella's mother. Now, she wasn't planning to do it, and then it accidentally gets put into the mother's drink, and she drinks it and dies. So it was all an accident. So they went that route. And so she ends up taking over as the mom. She's not really mean to Cinderella. She tries to be a mother to her until one of her daughters gets offed, so to speak. And then she keeps her in a comatose state until she can revive her. So then she takes all her anger out in Cinderella and also her other daughter, who learns magic. They all learn dark magic. So, of course, that happens, because why not? And then so instead of Cinderella going after the prince at the ball where she meets Henry, she's trying to assassinate the prince. This whole backstory of that prince and that killing her father. So it was a lot of back and forth. So there was a lot of drama in the beginning part. That was unnecessary drama that they created. But the character of, I guess, the Lady Tremaine, if you want to call her that, she was pretty good. The actress was really, really good. Like, if you want to see some of her episodes, and it's a really tragic story for her. And then Lady Gothel comes back into the modern world where they're trapped in the curse, which is like this Louisiana town, I guess you can call it, but it's not. That's another weird thing. And so, yeah, it's all like clusterfuck. Sorry, pardon my French, but it is. So, anyways.
What did I say, ladies and gentlemen? I know it was going to be Stephanie that let the F fly.
I let it fly with my waving my pen in the air. Okay, so Lady Gothel, when she's in the reality world, you realize that in the past she had hooked up with Fat Hook when he was not fat. This is before he turned fat, before he lost his daughter, and realizes she's Alice's mother, so she hooked up with Hook. Literally hooked up with Hook. And so, with Fat Hook, not to...
I'm sure that's on a Hot Topic shirt somewhere.
I hooked up with Hook. Yeah. Hashtag I hooked up with Hook. You hear that, Colin? I'm calling him. So
good luck with that.
Everyone is just... It's like... You know what it's like? It's like watching a Telemundo. It's like watching a Spanish soap opera. Or any soap opera.
Oh, so soap opera-ish.
With fairy tale characters. And do we abuse ourselves watching that crap? I don't know if you know, I watched Jane the Virgin, and that's totally making fun of all Telemundo soap operas.
Oh.
If you get to, it's hilarious, but it's so good. And once you start watching it, okay, so we're going to start watching that with you. I'm just saying.
Oh, no.
It's so worth it. Like, like Andrea, I guarantee my whip girl would love this. This is something that she would totally love. It's got that, feminist humor, but at the same time, it's got that Spanish kind of It totally makes fun of the soap operas. It's beautiful.
Okay.
So it's worth watching. Putting that tag in. So yeah. So I guess Once Upon a Time is just like the ultimate Disney soap opera.
Yeah.
That's what I'm gonna call it. It is the ultimate Disney soap opera, and there's just too much going on that there's never a concrete story, and too many plots that never get fulfilled, that never get resolved.
Yeah. Yeah, that was frustrating. That was actually really frustrating throughout the show.
Oh, Grumpy!
Yeah, and his fairy love.
Yes. They had like cute little side stories going on, and then they just dropped a lot of the side stories when the seasons went on because they said, okay, let's just concentrate on the main characters. I'm like, oh.
I wanted to see Grumpy get his happy ending.
I wonder if you did, although she was a nun. She is a sister.
Well, that was half of the problem. No, in the first episode of season 2, after all the characters realize that they've been cursed and they remember their fairy tale past, one of the dwarves, it might have been Grumpy, like he shouts, asking a question at Prince Charming. Wait, are all the fairies still nuns? Like it's in there, like that's actual dialogue, and it's like that's a great question. Thank you for asking the important questions.
And then they brought in like bounty hunters from the outside world. And then they emphasized that in the 7th season where they had these people that were trying to destroy magic. I mean that same, people that got hurt by magic because their father was taken away, their mother was taken away, and so you're just kind of like.
Well, that was the other thing too. It was always some sort of parental hang up for someone's tragic backstory. It was like, my father was taken away from me, my mother was taken away from me, I was taken away from my parents. It was always something akin to that whenever a character was bad or had some sort of a motive. It was always something to do with a parent or a child.
Exactly, but the biggest hang-up was probably Bellflower and Rumple, but not just that. Yeah. Then to top that, Rumple and his father, who ends up being our Peter Pan.
Man, that was the weirdest retcon that I had ever seen. And you know what? God bless Robert Carlyle and Robbie Kay too for their acting to sell it. I mean, I just try to imagine being in these actors' shoes and reading something in the script, being like, oh, I'm 17 years old and I'm going to play this 40-something-year-old man's father. Nah, he's beautiful. He's got perfect cheekbones, and his skin is nice and flush. He's going to look great forever. They cast him perfectly, huh?
Like a little case, when he gets older and they realize that he looks exactly the same as he did when he was 5.
Hey, you know else who doesn't age? Paul Rudd. Maybe they're distantly related or something.
Paul Rudd.
He doesn't. He really doesn't. you turn on Clueless, and then you compare that with Ant-Man, and he doesn't look any different. He looks exactly the same. I want to know what this man is doing for his skincare routine.
Paul Rudd, are you rubbing virgin's blood on yourself?
Huh.
That's what it's so funny because I was talking to someone about that. I wanted to make a comment to one of my old theater teachers about that, but I didn't think he would take it the right way because of virgins. So I wanted to say, do you rub the blood of virgins on your skin?
Oh, gross.
And I did well. But yeah, I look at some of these actors that don't age, and they say oh, I have no work done in my Botox.
Well, that's actually kind of the sad thing too. When somebody does have work done, you can kind of tell.
What was it? Oh gosh, what was?
It's becoming more and more noticeable. Just use creams, ladies and gentlemen. That's what you want to do. Put oil on your face and your neck and your hands. Your hands will not lie.
Put the oil of youth, the sweat of youth on your head.
Baby tears.
My baby's sweating. Oh, wait, I have a child. I have a child. Sweat, 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 sweat. Oh, God. Yes, we've been ranting for about 45 minutes. So this is going to be broken up in parts. So just letting you guys know, you'll see it part 1, part 2, maybe part 3, because there's going to be 15-minute segments, but it's okay.
You know what? I should have warned you. No, because I saw your first episode. I was like, okay, it was, between 10 and 15 minutes. Shouldn't go too long. And then I should have known, nah, we're going to be talking about this for, ever. Because it's us two.
That's what we do. I mean, so Miss Dole Whip and I used to do live.
Lady Times.
Our other lives, which we are going to be picking up again, called Lady Times, hopefully soon. Let's just put it this way. When you look and it's been 4 hours. When you realize we started at 6, it might be 5 hours, because we stopped at 11, we're like, wait a minute, we haven't even watched Lucifer yet.
Yeah, crazy night.
Yeah, so bear with us. I'm keeping an eye on the time. I don't want to go over an hour, because I'm planning to break this up in 30-minute segments.
Fair enough. Okay, so I suggest we pick our favorite couples, our favorite ships from the show. So I'm gonna go with Snow and Charming, because for me that's OG. To me, that's kind of quintessentially what the show started out as, and the heart of what the show was. And just the chemistry is off the charts. Yeah, well, tell them.
Mine is not even canon, because I can't do canon, because canon pisses me off. Would be Regina and Emma. Yes.
Yes.
Just, it's so beautiful. It's just, and especially their road trips and...
Yeah.
That is, so I pretty much identify with Regina. I am my own little evil queen. I am an evil queen. And then, of course, I have my beautiful blondie over here. So my BFF. Mwah.
You know what? That was something we always talked about doing for Halloween, and we never did.
Oh, and now it's too late because you live in Florida. Oh, there's another reason, guys. So, FYI, if the sound sounds funky sometimes, just letting you know, we are doing this remotely. So,
yeah.
She is in Orlando, Florida, I believe. Yes.
Yes.
And I am in LA, California. So this is how we reconnect, sharing our craziness with you. And here's the thing. This will give you a little background of our friendship. We could not be talking to each other for a while. We'd be busy with our lives. Not we're angry at each other, but we're busy with our lives. And literally we we meet up again. Sweet up a chuck. There we go. Sweet up a chuck. We meet up again, and we'll spend 8 hours talking. That's our relationship. She's my sister from another mister. She's my other wife.
Truly, it was funny when you brought up the road trip thing, because you and I took that road trip going up back and forth between LA and San Francisco, and that's a long drive. For people that don't know, just because those two cities are in California does not mean they are close to each other. That's 8 hours one way. So, and you were pregnant at the time too, and miraculously we were totally chill. I can barely stand to be in a car with most people for 2 hours, let alone 8, and we were just fine. And I was like, you know what? If like if our significant others were to pass away, and we were just kind of like whatever, we'd probably just move in together and just be like, yeah, okay, it's chill, and there'd be like no issues or anything.
You have to understand, our relationship is not sexual.
No, this is completely platonic. We're just like the best of friends.
The point where it's insane. And that Mark has to share, we have a custody of Andrea, so I get certain days.
Well, now even less. No, but he's been good this whole time. Like, I have the room to myself. He hasn't tried to interfere at all. He's just happy that I'm able to talk to you at this point. But the amount of times I've messaged him after hanging out with you for an extended period of time, be like, honey, can you come pick me up?
The cool thing about me and Andrea, and this I think will work with our shows, is that when we're done with each other, we'll let each other know that we're done with each other. Like, we're honest enough with each other that we say, like, I gotta go. Or I say, like, no, I don't want to hang out today. I'm going to be a hermit today.
Yeah.
Me, I'm not feeling it. Andrea, I'm not feeling it. Like, we're honest with each other. Like, that's what makes our relationship. And we don't take it to heart because we know, like, we need time. So we can be quiet and not talk to each other and be fine with it. We'll just sit there. We're like, okay. Okay, guys. We are at time. I'm calling it. Doesn't mean me and Andrea are going to stop talking, but we're going to stop talking to you. So, this is episode 2, Once Upon a Time again, next week. I'm excited about this one, because we brought it up earlier. We are going to be doing our Lucifer.
Yeah!
So, if you want to binge that before you listen in, that would be episode 3, Lucifer, because we got a lot to talk about before the last season happens, and... Give us a break, please.
Yeah.
But we can't talk about it right now because otherwise we'll go on like another hour.
Forever. Yeah, no, that's going to be 2 hours that we talk. So we're really going to have to break that one down in like 20-minute segments.
That one, if you're going to planning on going on a road trip, go ahead and listen to that one. That's So thank you for tuning in to Ship or Not to Ship, Fandoms Are Us. My name is Steph Zushi, a.k.a. Galaxy Knight, and this is...
Andrea Donica, a.k.a. Dole Lip Drea. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to us ramble about Once Upon a Time.
And this is us signing out. Bye!